Welcome back to Sendspark Studio South here in sunny Austin, Texas. Today we've got Mark Osborne, head of sales over at Elevate and Frozen Pond Fanatic. Mark, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks. Appreciate it. How are you?
I'm pretty good. You want to jump into it?
Absolutely.
Mark, pretend I'm 5 years old. Explain to me what Elevate does. Remember, I've got a short attention span.
Bottom line is we just help companies grow revenue faster and make it more profitable, right? So everybody wants to do it and you can create revenue, but you can actually lose money at the same time. But our main thing is how do you marry the two things that everybody has trouble doing, sales and marketing? How do you get those two teams on the same side? And that's kind of what we specialize in, consulting around that. We can execute and we can train as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I got most of that. Mark, what is your superhero origin story? You're bit by a spider moment. You looked at the world one way and then something happened and it's led you to where you are today.
Yeah, that probably come from waking up from a concussion. But, my body basically broke down. And like a lot of sports guys, I went into the beer rep world because that's what a lot of former hockey guys do. So I got into sales. I was actually in a competitive market. So where we were not the premier brand, somebody else was. People are very hostile and very loyal to their brands for whatever reason. And I enjoyed that, to be honest with you.
That sort of pushback?
Yeah. And so to go
You're a hockey guy. Of course you like to put, come on.
And I figured out some tricks. Like people actually can't tell what beer they're drinking if you do a blind taste test, as long as they're, if it's a lager's a lager, an ale's an ale, and you give it to them, they can't taste it. So I love that. And then from there, I actually didn't enjoy the late nights, to be honest with you. I was kind of over that at that point. So I ended up going to Xerox, doing the buyer focused selling, the whole training thing, and kind of fell in love with the tech side of it. Yeah. So DocuShares, which they had, which obviously everybody does now in the cloud, but they did it on a little server that sat under your desk. And so I did that, fell in love with it, and then got recruited to go to Q1 Labs through a mutual friend. Somebody said, hey, Mark's killing it over there. Bring him over and build the inside sales team and do that. So I went over, young and cocky, went over and did that. It was a great time. And I was hooked. The startup world was, at one point I told my wife I promised I would get a real job, because the weird hours in the startup world, you're well aware, right? You're taking calls at 3 a.m. because somebody's in Australia. You just did whatever you had to do. And I loved it. To me, it was a challenge.
It's funny because what you're saying, you got into it to get away from those late nights.
I know. Well, drinking part of the late nights.
Right. Okay. The drinking part of it. That's actually a really good one. You enjoyed that hostility of kind of getting into the beer sales after hockey. You jumped into Xerox, did a really good job there, and someone pulled you into startup software sales world. And it seems like you haven't been able to get out of it.
I've tried a few times. And I will share a funny story about that. So at one point, you're just burned out. I'd been through 3 acquisitions, I think, at that point. And acquisitions they're always bumpy. Everybody says, oh, it's going to be great. Nothing's going to change. And it's sheer chaos.
It's a lot of lip service.
There's a lot of lip service and you're watching a lot of change. So, and I was doing okay. So I thought, hey, you know what? My brother works at Irving, this oil refinery, and it's good money. And I said, maybe I'll go do that. They get me an interview. So I go in for this interview. I don't have this course they need called power engineering. I don't have that. So the guy says, well, that's okay. Are you scared of heights? I go, terrified. Don't like heights at all. How about confined spaces? I'm extremely claustrophobic. Can't stand it. Then I missed my physical because I took an interview with another job, a startup actually. Missed it. They still offered me the job.
And this was based off looks alone?
Looks, I'm just a charming guy, right? It's a curse. But my brother was there. So there was a guy there that knew me, vouched for me. Apparently they thought they could train me on the job, but you can't train somebody to go into confined spaces if they're terrified of them. So I took the job and went to yet another startup and I never got out of it.
Things have changed quite a bit since selling in your Q1 Labs days, and maybe even more so recently. What's one thing that has changed the most dramatically in your outbound approach in the past couple of years?
A lot, right? Like, so when I started, you used to say you worked the yellow pages. You had that and you kind of went out. There wasn't a whole lot of this intelligence. It was your gut. So you went out and you couldn't do call intelligence with things like Gong. You couldn't do all the really slick things you can do now to kind of help train yourself, make yourself better. I'm in love with Lavender and things like that to make the emails better, get response rates.
We love those guys and gals over there. It's a great team.
Yeah, they're fantastic. And then the video stuff I got into a few years ago as well. But prior to that, you would just bang the phone. And now people, the biggest change I see is people don't know how to prospect anymore. We got too caught up in doing scripts. So I'm going to call up and say, hello, Mr. So-and-so, this is what, and they would start pitching right away. And as you well know, nobody really cares what you do, who you are, your past. They have a problem, you have to solve it. Ask about them, make it about them. And people struggle at that. They panic and just start dumping stuff out. So then what they don't do is they don't call anymore, right? And they get this false positive that, hey, I've sent emails out and I've got 4 responses for my emails.
The false positive.
The problem is what happens is they sent 1,000 emails or however many, they get some responses, but they don't get the negative feedback. They have this false sense of success. Same thing with LinkedIn. It's like, look at all the LinkedIn connections I have. And I say, okay, but you talking to any of them? And they said, nope. I said, well, people like collecting connections. But the problem is when you phone somebody, you get them on the phone, you get that feedback immediately. Positive or negative, it doesn't matter. People aren't built for that. They just aren't. We talked about before about having grit and being able to bounce back. And why I like guys that are either military or sports guys is they're used to being criticized. They're used to getting beat up. They want the feedback. They want to get better. They actually crave it.
There's someone on LinkedIn, this fellow named Sean Hurd. He's former military, and he started a group called the Shift Group that helps former military personnel or folks that were in the military get jobs in tech. And he's one of these people that shoots it straight. The way he posts on LinkedIn, it's like, why don't you give these people who were in the military a shot at doing this job? It's unbelievable the way he just throws it out there. I love it because it's so, please be direct. Tell people how you feel instead of just being wishy-washy about it.
One of the big things I've seen in a change recently, all the tech is great, but all that tech really does is brings to the surface human behavior, right? So that's what Lavender's got some of that stuff in there. When I saw really good sales guys in the past, they would just do some things intuitively. And they would say, hey, I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to figure out, like I had a boss that would go in and go to his customer and say, hey, you've got 10 projects coming up this year. And he would lay out, we can do these 6. And the customer would say, well, yeah, but you guys do this too. He goes, yeah, we're not that good at that. But that little disarming, it built trust.
Yeah. You're not telling me you're going to solve every single little thing. Oh, you can't get there? I'm happy you were upfront and telling me that you're not going to be able to be my document signing.
And so they did this stuff kind of naturally. They learned it trial and error. It was just intuitive, but they put themselves in the shoes of the customer. What would they appreciate? And then they do really well at that. And other people don't do it naturally. But now all of a sudden you're seeing all these guys that have the research. Now they've done the research. There's books. In the last 2 years, I don't know, I probably have, or say 1 year, I probably have 8 books that almost the same thread through every one of them, right? It's very much around that human behavior. How do you remove friction from the sales cycle? And it's almost always comes down to just be honest. We know people perform when you set goals. So if I set goals for my team, they perform better because they know where they are, all that, or they know what to expect. When you call somebody up, I think it's imperative to say the reason for my call. People know better because I've listened to God knows how many calls of 8 reps and myself. And I think back, how many times did I call somebody up and start talking and they go, wait a minute, what was your name again? What's this about? What's the reason for the call? I'm like, hey, guess what? It seems like most people want to know that. Maybe I should just tell them that up front.
At the beginning. Hey, the reason for my call. It's like, the upfront contract. I'm a big fan of that.
And there's other guys. You could read the books. There's like Jeb Blunt. There's a million of these guys. And they'll all say kind of the same thing. It's tell them what the call's about. And remember, we're interrupting people for a living. So acknowledge that.
Hey, I know I'm interrupting. I want to let you know why I'm calling really quickly. All right. You got 10 seconds, man. What's up?
But we've talked about it before. And the thing is, a conversation that's authentic, right? That's human. There's some stammer. It's not rehearsed too much. It's not old. It's clear. And I try to teach guys little tricks to buy yourself time. You know, when somebody asks you a question, you go, geez, that's a good question. Let me think about that a little bit.
As you're on Dr. Google or Professor Google.
It's like, oh, Lord, that's a good one. That's a doozy.
It's almost like before we had all these tools, it's about picking up the yellow pages and making the phone calls and that really being honest and looking for that problem. It sort of seems like it went away when all the technology came and we lost our ability to have a conversation with people. And now what's coming in these last year and a half, it's like, we got to get back to those basics and have just that conversation. But you're saying those conversations are just enhanced and rather informed by this new technology that we have. It cannot be a crutch.
It can't be a crutch because there's another gentleman, I wish I could remember his name, but smart calling, right? So now you've got more data than you've ever had before, right? Remember there was the profile, the customer profile thing, was like 66 questions and you'd say they went to this school and that thing. And I can't remember what it was called, but you had that when you would do customer research. Now it's there in 5 seconds. I can just bring it up, look at it. But now I can call with some intent, right? So every question has to have a purpose. I'm trying to ask the questions to control the conversation. So it's like a choose your own adventure, but I actually know the destination. I know where I'm trying to take that customer, but I want them to do the mental exercise and gymnastics to get there. I don't want to
them to arrive at them themselves, and you're only just nudging
them, right? You have to know why you're asking those questions. It's imperative.
Awesome. Mark, thank you so much for that answer. What do you think will be different in sales communications in 1 year versus right now? Do you think it will be impossible to avoid AI, just more difficult to get into inboxes? Are you going to see more people in person? Is there going to be more video? What do you think?
Yeah, it should be more video. Where I'll say I'll start with that is we're using AI now. Some people are using AI and they don't even realize they're using AI. You can even at some level watch things.
I am AI. I'm not really here.
Yeah, exactly right. So what I'm hoping to see is AI take away some of the rote tasks. So the magic of having a person is a person can then create rapport with somebody. So if I can take away all the things so that my people and myself can spend more time speaking to a client and doing outreach through video and
doing the human part.
Doing the human part. That's the part that AI is never going to be able to do. It doesn't do the back and forth really quick because it has to process something. It has to do something. And we don't have quantum computing yet. It might be a little cost prohibitive. So how do I get it to kind of do the personalization of email? I think it will get there much more than it has now. But the problem with email is I've got at any given time 400 or 500 unread emails that I have to purge because I get spammed.
Right? Real quick, Mark, how many emails of those have video in it?
I would say I've only seen about 2 recently.
In hundreds.
Hundreds. Thousands.
Does that seem like it's a missed opportunity as far as anyone trying to get in front of you?
Absolutely, because it's too much. How do you get above the noise? What can you do that's different? The first thing you have to do is personalization to the actual email. Do something with it that makes me want to read it and doesn't go like the cut and paste. I've seen this 1,000 times. How do I do something different? The other thing is I can click the link, the video comes up and I can hear it versus having to read it. Too many people write essays. If I have to scroll out of the preview pane, it's probably not getting read.
Ooh, that's legit. And I mean, listen, I know the Lavender team talks about this all the time, but you're not a Lavender show. This is coming from the head of sales here. If it's outside of that, you're probably going to have to get back to it, which you never will.
Look, I could show you the look at this later mailbox, and it's just stuff that I've never
untouched.
Well, we talk about that a lot when people download content. So they'll download content, and I said to somebody, how fast do you have to get to that content? We've put a white paper out there, and they download it, and they're like, oh, a couple days. I go, you have minutes. You have minutes. Because the problem is they do whatever we all do. They download that content. They go, I'm going to read that white paper. And then life gets in the way. And that white paper goes into a folder. Or if you're old school like me, you've killed a couple trees. And there's a stack of white papers beside me that I swear I will read. And
it ends up just being kindling.
I do live in Canada, so I got to start some fires every now and again.
I had to throw kindling out. Nice. You don't get a lot of video emails. It's kind of like a lost opportunity for folks. It gets people above the noise, right? Short enough where you know what's going on in that preview to give you an idea, inform you of what's going on there, and make you actually want to read it. Funny enough, if you already have Lavender Working and Sendspark, you've got a good copy that you can get going, and then that makes the people want to open the video.
And it's funny because in my day-to-day life, I am relatively old school, so I do enjoy my whiteboard, but I like my whiteboard to keep notes on and to tell me what I have to do that day.
Same.
We'll refer back to the multiple concussions, but so I have that, but I find it really tacky, the video that has that.
Hi, Mark.
I personally don't like it.
Yeah.
No, some people may. Again, we can't go on what I don't like. I have to look at what,
of course,
what's going to give me the most success. This is when I go back to telling people, don't go on your gut. Your gut is often wrong. I never used to be a data guy. We talked about what's different in sales. So years ago, you went on your gut and
it was qualitative. Now it's give me the numbers.
Give me the numbers.
Data driven.
Yeah, data driven. So what can I do? How can I just make myself better, but use the data? Because sometimes it's the thing that you're not comfortable with that makes the difference. Having played sports and stuff, or even positive habits or whatever that is, you need to practice the things that you're not good at. It's easy to practice
the things that suck.
Yeah,
to do. That's what you got to do. You got to eat the frog.
Eat the frog. Someone says, I don't understand what that means. I go, well, I can sum it up real quick.
Oh yeah. If someone doesn't get it, it's because they probably kick things down the road.
They do.
They kick that can down the road. They kick the frog down the road. Okay, we're kicking off the Elevate use case segment here. They are customers of Sendspark. Can you please introduce yourself?
Mark Osborne, head of sales and capability head for outreach. So all things inside sales outreach and finding new customers.
Awesome. Over at Elevate. Now, Mark, what problem were you trying to solve when you first started using Sendspark?
Reply rates. You see a downward kind of spiral or downward trend in emails being responded to or replied to. Again, how do you get above the noise? How do you do this better? And we have clients. We work with other clients. And so I would go in, and this is why I was brought in. It's like, how do we do this different? How do we correct this? Because we're sending out 4,000 emails. This is an actual example. A customer sent out 4,000 emails over a period of time and had absolutely 0 responses.
0.
I said, I don't even know how you do that. Somebody should have accidentally responded to you. But nope. I thought people were exaggerating thing. And no, we went through it. And after I looked, I actually used a couple of things to figure this out. I used lavender. I said, give me the emails. I'd never seen anything score so poorly in my life, but weird things that I knew just would get through a spam filter. So I said, good news is probably nobody read it because it probably never got to anybody.
Right.
That was the thing. How do we do something different? And even for our own outreach, which is where I primarily use Sendspark, right? Tested the clients, but I brought it in-house for us to do our outreach to go find new clients.
Okay. So I guess what is the trigger for that? So it's sort of at the beginning of your sequence or cadence. Is that kind of what is even triggering the video? It's one of those, hey, I'm real.
Yeah. So I tried a few different things, and the team over at Sendspark's been great. One of the things was, hey, let's experiment. Let's do that as the intro. Let's do it as a follow-up. Let's try it in LinkedIn. Let's try a couple of different places to do this outreach. And it's interesting, right? So we haven't done a ton of outreach. I've primarily just a small team kind of using it and experimenting with it, but there's going to be a big push now that we're getting much more comfortable with it. And again, Sendspark's helped with kind of scripting these things and how do I get them tightened up and not
You got to get people comfortable with it. No one just starts off as a pro.
And not do some of the weird things that I potentially do. I always want to crack a joke or do something self-deprecating, but I think I told your CEO there that I wanted to do one where I had a pulley system and I came in from the sky, right? How Spider-Man, right? I said, I think that'd be interesting. Somebody might look at that.
I think that would be interesting. Mark, I think something you should probably dig into, and this is just me because this is how I use Sendspark. I don't know if you've seen kind of work that I do, which is just more like video content. So what I do is I'll take the videos, the sketches that I make, and I'll put that in a Sendspark. So I can actually pull off something like that where I'm in a green screen. It looks like I dropped in. Be like, hey, I'm here to do this thing. I
actually have a green screen. I should probably break that out.
We could probably break that down and make it happen. All right. So you kind of gave us how you're using it. What's in the front? It's at the initial. It's in follow-up. What results have you seen?
Yeah, it's interesting. I always, you go in and you look and you can see who's opening your emails and that you can see who's reading it. And it's funny. There's been, say I wasn't getting responses or replies. It's actually had more of an impact on reply rates. Oddly enough, more impact on people accepting my LinkedIn requests.
It's helped that.
My whole thing with building cadences and doing all this, I think you need to be really systematic or have this really consistency breeds success, right? That's it. It doesn't matter. So yes, you've got the art behind it, but if I don't build familiarity throughout the entire process, there's a LinkedIn message here, there's a call here, there's an email here. This multi-channel thing is important. This additional channel doesn't just put a name and voice to it, it puts a face to it.
Got it. It all works in unison, man. It's not one thing.
You couldn't build better familiarity. And that's the key. That's how, when you're doing cold outreach, you have success later in the cadence. You won't get it day one. And so I actually think I'm going to start implementing like a round two. So once I go through implementing the Sendspark stuff later in the cadence as well, to kind of come back to it and revisit.
I like that. Now, to revisit it, would it be for someone that is not replied at that point?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, right.
Once I'm talking to them, we live in Teams or Zoom or whatever.
Right? Got it. You're in tight with them. Now, do you use Sendspark for any type of demo work?
Not today. I've used it for a bunch of stuff, even with some vendors, like, hey, there's an issue with a bug with this. One of the things that I want, and I actually was brainstorming this today, is so with our clients, when we hand off a deal, we write up little things like, here's an opportunity for you that we found. And some of these deals are tens of millions of dollars. What's interesting is you want a lot of detail. These aren't, hey, I'll take a meeting. This is this qualified properly? What are the criteria? And there's going to take months and years close. But I thought, hey, why don't we take it a step further? Why don't we create when you do the handoff, all the stuff's there, links to all the reports, all the data that you'd gather on the call, but also a Sendspark message to the rep. Say, hey, this is how the call went. Then you can explain exactly how it happened and use your words. That would get sent out to our customer to say, hey, here's the opportunity. And then the outreach person would basically make this recording and it would say like, hey, I just got you a meeting with the CRO.
Got it. It lays it out. It's not just here's a wall of everything for you to read. Here's a quick synopsis. Hey, this is kind of what happened. And this breaks it down.
Well, the same reason we don't read emails, because I don't know how many times I've watched teams hand off stuff to an AE. AE goes on, does a demo and asks all the same questions again. It's like,
you'll lose a customer that way.
Well, I remember had a guy who kept saying, as I previously mentioned. And
of course.
I was cringing.
That's what happens when you drop the ball there. A Sendspark video, it might help you hold on to the ball. Mark, what would you say to someone in your position who's considering using Sendspark?
Just do it. Whether you think it works or not, the data speaks for itself. Again, it's not your gut here. There's a reason this space is growing. If you need to get your emails responded to or you need to increase reply rates, you have to do something different.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that answer, Mark. That was the Elevate use case segment. Woo! Mark, what is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love? What makes you weird?
I enjoy getting up. Like, I'm one of the few people Monday morning comes and I actually want to work. I love it. And I enjoy cold calling. I think I don't know, it's just never bothered me. It's fun. Now, my wife would say it's that I eat all my food one item at a time and the meat is always last. And it's the weirdest thing that she thinks that I do. I don't know. It drives her crazy. Don't know why she cares.
Yeah, these are so good. You enjoy waking up on Monday and making cold calls, and the personal one at home, you eat your food one item at a time. So if you've got carrots, peas, rice, and meat, you're eating the carrot first, the peas, the rice, and then the meat. No mixing.
Brian, we don't want to confuse the palate.
Okay, yeah, you're right. It is the palate that we're talking about because everything mixes up in there. The last time I checked.
Yeah.
Mark, what purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months?
Literally a massage gun and a lacrosse ball. You put it in certain areas, lay on it, it can release tension. I'm full of arthritis. Everything's been busted up. I have to take injections every month. It's another thing that drives my wife nuts because she can hear the massage gun going all the time because I'll just sit around and
now that's it's okay. I know it's over $100.
You can find them cheaper. You can.
What? A Theragun.
It's the knockoff Theragun, right? So yeah, not knockoff. There's just a million that you can buy. Go to.
All right, I don't know, man. I'm one of those guys. Pay half, you end up paying double. You know what I mean? Save a little bit. Now. It just always happens to me. I got bad luck like that. Mark, what kind of music do you like to listen to? I like making a mixtape for every single person that joins me on the show.
I'm all over the board, so
that's good. Eclectic.
So for me, it depends what I'm doing. Big blues guy, love Stevie Ray Vaughan, all that sort of stuff.
Oh, so nice.
Like Chris Stapleton, those type of guys. But if I'm at the gym, then it gets really weird. That's when we're going with Disturbed. My wife once listened to my playlist and my Spotify in the car, and she said, "You literally went from Motorhead to Ed Sheeran." That was a weird transition.
I think that's going to be the perfect title. That's what I'm going to have in my head when I put this together. Yeah, I'm going to be like Motorhead to Ed Sheeran. Honestly, that just tells me that you are a man that can wear many hats. Mark, we've arrived at the final question of our interview. It happens to be everyone's favorite question. Are you ready?
Yeah.
It's the Billboard question. If you could have a billboard with anything on it, everyone would drive by it and read it. I'm paying for it. What would it be and why?
Do the little things well.
Do the little things well.
It comes from me playing hockey and sport. When you do the little things, everything else takes care of itself. You can't focus on the result. You have to focus on the process, getting better there. So if you do those little things, that's how you have success. Like
cycle the puck, get the puck on the net.
Yeah, exactly. It's the little things that breed success. Consistency breeds success, all that sort of stuff. But it always comes back to breaking things down very simply. And when people look at the result, they're like, I want to be here. It's like, yeah, but you got a lot of work. Customers say this all the time. They're like, I want this. It's like, yeah, but you're broken back here. We'll never get there because you're broken back there.
You're not going to get, like, nothing is a silver bullet. It's just a bunch of little swipes at it with a hammer.
Adam, who's our CEO, and I got into our customers are looking for a silver bullet. And I go, here's the thing. We wouldn't exist if there was a silver bullet. This is hard.
Yeah. You're helping them do the little things well. That's what you do at Elevate.
Yeah. Oh my God. You should be in marketing.
Oh my God. Wait a second. I mean, that's what people say that I should do. And I always tell them my job is head of lettuce on LinkedIn. Literally says head of lettuce. I don't want to hear it. People say that you should really go down this marketing road. And it sounds like a lot of work, Mark. I don't want to do that. I just want to make my jokes. I want to have fun with cool people that are in this world, have them giggle, buy more of the software that I'm with at the time. And then that's the whole thing, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Mark, thank you so much for having joined me on the show. How do you think we did?
I had a lot of fun. I can go on rants, so I love it.
This was great. Again, we've only just met, but this is cool. I'm really happy that we were able to do this. We had a fun conversation last week when we put this on the book. So enjoy the rest of your day, man.
All right. Hey, appreciate it. Have a good one.